So another week and we are back with our Championship weekly score predictions. Coming up this week we got some interesting fixtures. As always, I'll leave some polls for you guys to vote on, and as well as that, all this weekend's games will be in the description down below so that you guys can make your score predictions, and if you do get any of them right, your comment will be included next time. Before we do jump into my predictions though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, their link will be in the top line of the description down below with all the games going on this weekend. If you want to get live updates to your phone of what is going on for the rest of the Championship while you are at any of the games this weekend, then you can go ahead and do that over on the OneFootball app. Obviously, the league table is starting to shape up a little bit now. You know, we've got the race for automatic promotion heating up a little bit with the top two stumbling a little bit. Down at the bottom of the table is very interesting as well, and then the playoff pitch is anyone's game at this point in time, so God knows how it's going to look come the end of the season. But like I said, OneFootball, really handy app with keeping up to date with everything, so I'll leave a link down below. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's hop into my score predictions. So starting it out with the game going on tonight, which sees Fulham going up against Middlesbrough. Two quite informed sides at the moment. Middlesbrough unbeaten in 5, Fulham with only 1 loss in their last 5. The away side does find themselves with a bit of a disadvantage coming into this one, given the fact that they played now 3 games in the last 6 days coming into this one. Obviously, they had that FA Cup replay against Spurs in midweek where they did make some changes, but I'd imagine that the team won't be all too different going into this one. Middlesbrough have pulled off quite a few upsets lately away from home, especially, you know, they went to Deepdale, which has been a tough place for away sides to go to so far this season. Picked up all 3 points there. They beat West Brom at the Hawthorns as well, so Middlesbrough definitely have it in them to get all 3 points from this one. I think that Patrick Roberts has been an excellent addition for them in his game against Derby at the weekend. I thought he had a real impact on them, really good runner going forward and can drive the team moving forward. Fulham is an interesting one. They will have Mitrovic out for this one after he picked up an injury in their last game against Hull. That one not being the best spectacle. It was Ivan Cavallero with the only real quality moment in the match that won them that game, so I'm interested to see how Fulham lined up over the next coming weeks without Mitrovic and what effect that actually has on the side. I think that with fatigue maybe playing it into it for Borough, I think I'm edging towards Fulham at Craven Cottage, but they can be a little bit inconsistent. I'm going to say 2-1 Fulham. Thief is going to say 2-0 Middlesbrough. That for me is a real 50-50. It depends how fresh Middlesbrough are feeling. As the early kick-off on Saturday, we see QPR going up against Leeds. Another really interesting one. Obviously, Brentford are closing the top 2 on Leeds at the moment, and Brentford was actually QPR's last game where they didn't really show up for that one. For the first half especially, they were blown out of the water, and if the Leeds that we saw from earlier on in the season does turn up for this with QPR's defensive record, they could absolutely blow them away. But QPR being back at Loftus Road with Leeds seemingly having a bit of a London curse at the moment. Whenever they go to London away, they can't seem to pick up a result there. QPR could turn it on for this one. Added to that, they have scored 11 goals in their last 2 home matches against Cardiff and Swansea. So QPR of all sides, with Leeds shaking a little bit defensively. I think that Kiko Casillas conceded 76% of the shots on target he's faced in the last 6 matches. QPR are one of those quite attack heavy sides that if you catch them on a bad day, they can tear through you. It's just with that defensive record, I see goals being scored in this, and that's not always the case with Leeds. Obviously, we had that mad game where we saw them beating Birmingham by 5 goals to 4, and that could be the same outcome of this sort of game, really, with QPR just going for it, and I think that that's QPR's best option for this one, really. I can't see them wanting to sit back against this Leeds side. I think they're just going to have to throw all guns blazing at it. But for a score prediction, with Leeds in their London curse at the moment, I actually think they may drop points in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Thief is going to say it will be 2-0 Leeds. Another tricky game to predict this weekend sees Birmingham going up against Cardiff. Birmingham will have Harley Dean suspended for this one, who I don't think is having a particularly great season for Birmingham, but with them not having too many options there, I'm interested to see how that actually affects them, whether Roberts is going to be back fit in time or not. If he's not, Birmingham have a bit of an issue there, especially added to that the fact that they conceded 8 goals in the last 2 home matches. Cardiff away from home are just a side which never fails to amaze me, really. You never know what you're going to get from them. Their last 3 away games involve a 6-1 hammering against QPR, a quite dramatic 2-1 away victory at Hillsborough against Sheffield Wednesday, and then a mad 3-3 draw at Ellen Road against Leeds United. So with Cardiff away, you never really know what you're going to get from them. Birmingham defensively do worry me at times, although they did get back on track, beating Luton in their last game by 2 goals to 1. I think that Birmingham do have a lot of good options going forward. You know, if you can find a system that gets the best out of like Jude Bellingham, Dan Crowley, Villalba, Bella, Lucas Djukovic added to that as well. They've got a lot of good options there, but at the back in midfield sometimes lets them down a little bit. They will have Sunjic back for this one, which should be an added bonus, but for a score prediction and with how inconsistent Birmingham can be, I think I may be edging towards Cardiff for this one. I'm going to say 2-1 Cardiff, with Thief saying it'll be 1-0 Cardiff. Then we got Bristol City going up against Barnsley. Bristol City not going so well at the moment. moment. They're down in 9th in the Championship at the moment. Obviously, Barnsley a lot lower than that in the table. They are on a decent run at the moment, having lost only 1 of their last 8 matches, and they'll give Bristol City a real run for their money at the moment. Bristol City, who have lost 3 of their last 5 home matches. Ashton Gate, they've been giving out points there lately. They can't afford to do that for much longer. With there seems to be a little bit of shape up with the top 6 now. A couple of sides seem to be pulling away, so Bristol City need to get their act together sooner rather than later. Obviously, they had that game in midweek in the FA Cup, which I won't mention anymore for the sake of Bristol City fans, but yeah, that is fair to say that one didn't go to plan. Bristol City need to get back on track. They've won 2 of their last 5, both of them being against sides in the bottom 3. Obviously, they were able to see off Luton and Wigan, but Barnsley seem to be a bit of a different proposition than those two at the moment. They're on a good run at the moment. They're playing some nice football. Going forward, they cause a lot of issues, and with Bristol City leaving themselves quite open at the back sometimes, I can see Barnsley maybe nicking them something from this game. In the reverse fixture earlier on this season, it did end as a draw. Barnsley equalised quite late on in that game, and I see this one heading down a similar path. I'm going to go for a 1-1. FIFA same, 1-0 Barnsley. And then we got Derby going up against Hull. With Derby at the moment, it never rains, but it pours, doesn't it? They're facing a possible point deduction from the EFL. Christian Bielik has now been ruled out for the rest of the season with a knee injury that he sustained after playing in an under-23s match for Derby. So things aren't looking great for them at the moment. I think it's fair to say they're only 10 points away from the relegation zone, and with this possible point deduction, there was one particular report which came out saying it could be up to 21 points, which I think is a bit over the top really, but if anything was to happen, it would probably be similar to Birmingham from last season, who were given a 9-point deduction. Even that would take them agonisingly close to the bottom 3. Focusing on the game they have at the weekend though, going up against Hull, not going to be an easy game for them. Hull, who have won their last 2 away matches in pretty difficult circumstances. They went to Loftus Road, beat QPR there, and then followed it up with all 3 points away at Hillsborough. In both those games, they did well in the fact that they were under sustained pressure for large parts of that game, but hit them well going forward when it mattered on the counter-attack. Feel like they'll play quite similar in this game as well, but you know when things are just going so badly for a club that they just pull a result out of nowhere? I feel like Derby may just go and do that in this one. I've got a bit of a gut feeling about them in this one. Obviously, Hull did lose their last game at home against Fulham. There wasn't really a lot of quality in that game. You'd expect them to bounce back in this game. I see goals being scored. I'm actually going to say Derby may do this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Derby. FIFA's saying 1-0 Derby. Things aren't going well for them at the moment. They need a result. And then next up, we got Huddersfield going up against Brentford. Huddersfield's revival under the Cowleys has hit a bit of a halt lately. Obviously, they've lost their last 2 matches in the league. They lost against Barnsley. First off of that, they were really poor and they sort of fell apart in their last home game against Stoke. Going up against this Brentford side, though, they're going to have to be really concentrated. Brentford, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the Leeds game earlier on. You know, if Leeds do drop points in that game, then Brentford will have that added motivation coming into this one when they can really narrow the gap on the top 2. Obviously, playing fantastically at the moment. They've scored 10 goals in their last 4 matches, so are averaging more than 2 goals a game at the moment. And, you know, with BMW going forward at the moment, they are just fantastic to watch. And it's their defensive record as well, which has been quite underrated for the season so far. Huddersfield, I have liked some of the business that they have been doing in the transfer window so far. Obviously, Kongolo has just gone out on loan to Fulham for the rest of the season. I think a lot of people saw that one coming. He hadn't featured a lot for Huddersfield lately, but more than anything, it's the characters that Cowley's bringing into this Huddersfield squad. I think he wants a dressing room of the sort of people that want to play for the club, so people like Andy King, Richard Stearman, obviously Smith Rose coming in as well to add a bit more flair going forward. So I like the direction they're going in with this transfer window, but with how Brentford are playing at the moment, I think they may just have too much going forward. So I'll go for a 2-1 away victory, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Huddersfield. Then we got Millwall going up against Reading in our next game. 2 very informed sides going up against each other for this one. We thought that Reading's sort of unbeaten streak was coming to an end last week, but they dramatically, after conceding in the 96th minute, brought it back against Forest to pick up a point from that game. John Swift is really going to be the player who Millwall are going to have to stop for this one. Sean Williams will be suspended for Millwall after picking up a red card in their last game against Stoke. That one being a bit of a bland affair in the end, ending as a goalless draw, but looking back at their form at the Den at the moment, they are doing really well there. They've won their last 2 matches, including all 3 points against a very informed Brentford side. And Brentford and Reading, you know, do have some similarities in the way they like to play. Millwall completely stopped Brentford from creating many chances in that game. They got the early goal, and then from then on, really limited them in the way they play. So if they do a similar number on Reading in this one, they've got in them to pick up all 3 points. Millwall have been quite underrated with some of the football they have been playing lately. Obviously, there is that perception about Millwall that they are, you know, a bit of a sort of a set-piece merchant and stuff like that. But with the way that they press teams off the ball, they're actually really effective with how they play. Going forward as well, they've got the added quality of someone like Jed Wallace, who's on fantastic form at the moment. Both teams, I think, can score goals. I actually see this one heading towards a score draw. I'm going to say 2-2 with FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1. And then we got North End going up against Charlton. Both sides struggling for form at the moment. Charlton's last win came on Boxing Day, and Preston are without a win in their last 6 games. Now, Charlton, obviously, with their paper-thin squad at the moment, are finding things difficult, and added to that, Conor Gallagher being recalled from his loan at Chelsea and then sent back out on loan to the Championship at Swansea has got to be a bit of a hammer blow for them. But Andre Green's an interesting one coming into this one. Obviously, spent the first half of the season on loan at Preston, now playing for Charlton. His pace going forward is something that they were missing since the injury to Lecco, so he's going to be a real threat for this one. And obviously, he's going to want to get one over on like Alex Neil for not really giving him a chance at North End and everything like that. And he's pretty much going to be nailed on to score. I just feel that. Preston at the moment, though, our form really has tailed off. Our last game was a 1-1 draw against Blackburn Rovers, where there wasn't really a lot in that game, obviously. Scott Sinclair, it'll be interesting to see if he gets his first start. I imagine he's going to be slowly introduced to the first team as he does build up his fitness. The same with Daniel Johnson as well, who is now back in training, but I wouldn't imagine will be put straight back into that starting 11. And people like Sinclair and DJ are exactly what we've been missing lately. Creativity going forward. We have lost our last 2 home matches in quite poor circumstances, really. You know, they were both poor games against Reading and Middlesbrough. We lost both those by 2-0. We need to turn things around sooner rather than later, and I'll back us for this one. I'll say 2-1 North End. FIFA saying 1-0, but Charlton could surprise us. Next up, we then got Sheffield Wednesday going up against Blackburn. Sheffield Wednesday, fantastic in their last outing, beating Leeds at Ellen Road, and it was a really well-implemented game plan by Wednesday and Gary Monk in that game. Going to be a different game for this one, though, as they'll be expected to take the game to Blackburn. Obviously, they sat in well against Leeds, defended really well. That defensive partnership between Iorfa and Bourne are getting better week in, week out, and then going forward, they hit them well on the counter-attack with goals from Murphy and New Hugh to wrap it up. This Blackburn side do have a couple of injury doubts coming into this one. Obviously, Evans going to be out for quite a while now for Blackburn. Nyambi could be out for this one as well. Stuart Downing, another possible injury doubt. And people like Stuart Downing are going to be quite important for Blackburn. I feel like for the tail end of the season, with players like Brodley Dack out, it's people like Downing who they're going to be quite dependent on for their creativity. I thought that Downing had a decent game against North End last weekend. Sheffield Wednesday, though, back at home, have lost their last 2 games at Hillsborough. In both those games, they did have quite a bit of the ball, but just couldn't get that final touch in the final third. And if Blackburn look to come to Hillsborough and frustrate them, I could see them maybe picking up a point from this one. For the prediction, Blackburn can be quite a frustrating team to play. I'll go for a 1-1 draw. Thief's going to say 1-0 Wednesday. It'll be an interesting one. And the last game we got going on Saturday sees Swansea going up against Wigan. Swansea just outside the playoffs at the moment on goal difference. I feel like this January transfer window, it came at the right time for Swansea, really. They had hit a bit of a dip in their season, obviously. They started out the first 2 or 3 months really well and then started to tumble down the league a little bit. But with the recent additions that they brought into the squad to freshen it up, especially going forward, I fancy their chance of maybe finishing in the top 6 come the end of the season. Obviously, it is still very tight around that region of the table, but especially with the loan signing of Conor Gallagher, which I think is an excellent addition for Swansea. You know, he really shined in that Charlton side, but going into a side like Swansea who like to play with the ball, I think that's only going to go on and elevate Gallagher's game. You know, goals and assists, he's got them, and as a deep line playmaker, they've really got a real gem there. And if someone like Brewster can do the business for them going forward for the rest of this season, then Swansea will have a fighting chance. They're going up against this Wigan side who, it's just been a frustrating time for them lately. Sat 23rd in the league at the moment. Although the results haven't always been there, they have still been like competitive in games. Like their last game against Bristol City was sort of in the balance until Bristol City took the lead late on. Wigan have failed to score in 3 out of their last 5 championship matches, and for this one, I'm probably edging towards Swansea with their business they've done lately. I think they'll have too much going forward. I'm going to go 2-0 Swansea for that game. Thief saying it'll be 1-1. As the game on Sunday, we got Forest going up against Luton. Forest are looking to solidify their place in the top 6 at the moment, and it's a good chance to do so against a pretty out of form Luton side at this point in time. They've conceded 58 goals so far this season, which is absolutely staggering. Sat at the bottom of the championship, and away at the City Ground isn't going to be easy for them. Now, traditionally, these have been the sort of games where Forest have actually struggled in. You know, the past 2 or 3 seasons, it's been games against sides in the bottom 3 where Forest have thrown things away. And earlier on this season, they were a little bit dodgy with their home record as well, but lately have picked things up. Unbeaten in their last 4, they've won 3 out of their last 4. Obviously, their last game was a bit of an anomaly, really, in terms of how dramatic it was. A 1-1 draw against Reading. They thought they won that game, but ended up not doing so, conceding in the 97th minute. But with how shoddy Luton's defence has been, I fancy Forest going forward. People like Thiago Silva popping up in those little pockets of space. Someone like Lewis Grabban, who's going to be very effective in a game like this, a poacher inside the box. And Luton, I'm in no doubt, are going to continue to try and play play to their philosophy, moving the ball through midfield, but things aren't sticking for them at the moment, going forward or at the back. So for a prediction, I'm probably edging towards Forest. I'm going to say 2-0 in that one. FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. And then as our final game taking place on Monday night, we see West Brom going up against Stoke. It'll be interesting to see West Brom's mentality going into this one if both Leeds and Brentford have won this weekend. We've spoken about Leeds, falling off a little bit lately, but they've actually picked up more points in their last 5 games than West Brom have. West Brom not really playing the shining football that we were seeing from them at the start of the season. I'd imagine that Diane Garner is probably going to come back into the starting 11 for this one, but a lot of their players just seem to have fallen off at the same time. Someone like Matty Phillips at the moment doesn't really seem to be himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he was left on the bench for a little bit for West Brom, but an interesting one nonetheless. They're going up against the Stoke side, who haven't actually been doing it all too bad lately. They're just outside the bottom 3 at the moment, but interestingly enough, in their last 4 games, they've actually picked up more points than West Brom have. Their last game, bit of a dull one, a goalless draw against Millwall, but before that, put 5 goals past Huddersfield. Since O'Neill has been there, I think there has been an obvious improvement in the squad, but there is still a long way to go, and with it being so tight at the bottom of the Championship, you can't afford to take your eye off the ball for 1 second. West Brom, you feel like with the quality they do have in there, though, they'll get back to it sooner rather than later, and this is a decent opportunity to do so on a Monday night in front of the Sky cameras. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory. I think West Brom may get back to winning ways. FIFA's going to say it'll be a 1-1 draw. It's an interesting chance. But guys, there you have it. There are my Championship score predictions for what I think is going to happen in this weekend's fixtures. So if you agree with me, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think will happen in this weekend's games? But apart from that will now wrap it up for today's video, guys. So if you're going to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.